Hi there, Eve here from Vitamineve Nutrition Counseling, and today we're going to talk about what to do if you accidentally get too hungry. How to prevent overeating when you accidentally get too hungry. I may have talked about this before, but I feel like this is a really important topic, so I'm going to talk about it again. So let's jump in. First of all, everybody gets too hungry from time to time. So that's not the question. The question here is how you handle it, what you do when you accidentally get too hungry. And that's what I want to talk about today. Let's first talk about why it's an issue if you let yourself get too hungry, especially if this is something you routinely do. One of the reasons it could be problematic to let yourself get too hungry is that you're more likely to overeat, you're more likely to have cravings, you're more likely to be in a bad mood or have low energy, or what some people call hangry. If that's you, you know I'm talking to you. Or you may lose your sense of creativity or your motivation to get things done. Also, for people who struggle with things like anxiety and depression and hopelessness, letting yourself get too hungry makes these things worse. And finally, letting yourself get too hungry, again, especially if you do this too frequently, it may trigger your sense of diet trauma. And I know I talked about this a few videos ago, but what diet trauma is, it's when you have a history of dieting and a part of you just gets freaked out because you're too hungry. It's afraid that you're gonna starve yourself again. And that could be really problematic because, again, it may set you up for overeating, cravings, and kind of hoarding eating behavior. So think about your own experience. What happens to you when you accidentally or purposefully let yourself get too hungry? What happens to your behaviors? What happens to your emotions? What happens to your mind when you let yourself get too hungry? Not so fun now, is it? So let's talk about, well, first of all, I want to sit here as your online dietitian and say, well, then obviously don't let yourself get too hungry. But the truth is, as you've noticed, it's probably not that simple because it could be easy to let yourself get too hungry. Again, I'm human. That happens to me from time to time as well. Some things that may cause you to get too hungry is if you're in too many back-to-back meetings. Especially now in the Zoom world, it could be really easy to overplan your day. I know I've done this myself, and not schedule time to eat. And nowadays, that's causing a lot of people to lose touch with their hunger or push past their hunger and get way too hungry or in that famished state. Another thing that could cause people to get too hungry is now anticipating their hunger, or there may not be food available. Maybe because you're not around a kitchen or a fridge, or maybe financially you may not have access to food. That could certainly make somebody get too hungry. Also, if you're mid-travel, whether you're driving somewhere, walking somewhere, in the bus or in an airplane or on a train, sometimes it could be challenging to have access to food and to eat while you're traveling. You may not be prepared. And let's not forget this one. One reason many people may accidentally get too hungry, I think accidental was a wrong word, may let themselves get too hungry is if they're dieting and they're doing it on purpose. And it was really interesting. I was sharing this with a client, and bless her, because she said, hey, I get too hungry because I'm doing it on purpose. I'm trying to follow a diet. And so that could be another reason why you might be letting yourself get too hungry. So what I want you to think about right now, in the past week, what are some things that may have caused you to get too hungry? And looking at this week ahead, what are some things you think may cause you to get too hungry? So you could actually anticipate this issue coming up in the next week. So what I want to talk about now is, what are some tools? What are some things you could do when you get hungry that may prevent that overeating or those cravings or being out of control with food? And I love these tools. I use these tools from time to time myself. So they're tested by me, my clients, friends, family, colleagues. So I'm excited to hear your experience with these tools as well. So tool number one, if you see that you're too hungry, how about having something to ruin your appetite on purpose? So I'll give myself as an example. Today is Mother's Day here in the US, and I'm meeting my family at 8:30 p.m. for dinner. And then I know it's pretty late, but it was the only time that we could get reservations. And in the past, I would actually save myself for that dinner. Do you know what I'm talking about? Have you ever done that before? Good thing I know better now. But if I were to get too hungry before that meal, something I would do would be to ruin my appetite on purpose. Have something small to eat. So when I arrive at that restaurant, I'm hungry, but I'm not starving. So that's a great mindset to have, is when you have meals, that you want to begin your meals when you're first hungry, not starving, because you're more likely to have a more peaceful experience, make better choices, be more present with the food. And when you're not starving, when you start your meal slightly hungry, it makes the situation, it makes the event less about food. So for those of you who struggle with food obsession, I really want you to pay attention. First of all, I want you to avoid getting too hungry in the first place. But if you notice that you're too hungry and you're gonna go eat, something I recommend doing is to ruin your appetite on purpose. So when you arrive at the venue, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's a party, or even if it's your own kitchen, that you start the meal slightly hungry and not famished. The second tool, if you notice that you get too hungry, what are some things that you could eat to ruin your appetite on purpose? Many people ask that. It could be anything. Something I want you to think about is to serve yourself a finite amount, because it's very easy to go overboard. So whether it's a handful of nuts or a handful of chips, or a handful of piece of fruits, something that will take the edge off for you. Just my biggest recommendation is to serve yourself a finite amount. Don't eat it straight out of the bag or the container or the fridge. Serve it for yourself separately. I know I'm speaking fast. I'm just kind of excited to share this with you, so I hope you're following along. The next thing you could do to ruin your appetite on purpose is to eat mindfully. I love this tool. This is hard to do, especially when you're too hungry, but eating mindfully slows you down, and it helps you enjoy your food. And when you eat slowly, when you eat more deliberately, you're more likely to be in tune with your food, you're more likely to be in tune with your body, and when you're in tune with your body, you're more likely to notice your fullness, and you're more likely to stop when you're full. So some things that you could do to help you eat more mindfully is to chew well, to pay attention to the flavor of the food that you're having, to the texture, to the smell, and all these other aspects of enjoying your food. And I love this tool because it's all about sensuality and enjoying your eating. And so for those of you who love food, I think you'll really like this tool, because I'm actually asking you to enjoy your food. The third tool that you could use if you accidentally get too hungry, and this tool happens to be my client's favorite because it's really practical, it's easier to use than the first two, is if you get too hungry and you arrive at your meal, is to plan a speed bump or a break mid-meal to check back in to see how you're doing. So let me give you an example. Let's say you're gonna eat and you have a sandwich. Cut that sandwich in half. And after you eat that first half of your sandwich, use that break point, that cut point, as a reminder to check back in with your body. Where are you in terms of hunger and fullness? Are you paying attention to your food? Are you breathing? Because oftentimes when we eat, when we're too hungry, we're not really breathing, we're kind of inhaling the food. So, use that speed bump as an opportunity to check into your body. That halfway point is not a commitment to end your meal. Now, this is a really important thing I want you to get from what I'm saying. That halfway point, whether it's half of the burrito or half of the sandwich or, half a plate of food or whatever, is not a commitment to end your meal there. Because who knows, you may need another half of the sandwich, or you may just need a few more bites, or you might need the rest of the meal and some more food as well. You really don't know until you're at that point. But that halfway point is just a reminder for you to check back into your body, tune in to where you are in terms of hunger and fullness, make sure that you're breathing, maybe take a look around, have a sip of water, talk to the person in front of you, and then continue eating. So I hope you found these tools helpful. I'm gonna repeat them one more time. The first tool is to ruin your appetite on purpose. Hold on. The first tool is to ruin your appetite on purpose by having a finite amount of food to take the edge off of your hunger. The second tool is to eat mindfully. This helps slow down your eating and helps you become more present with your fullness, so you're more likely to notice your satisfaction. And noticing your satisfaction actually helps you stop eating when you're full. And the third tool is to plan a speed bump in your meal, a break. either a third of the way in or halfway in, as a reminder to check back into your body, to check back into your food. So I hope this was helpful. Please comment below what your favorite tool is, if you've used any of these tools before, or if you're gonna experiment with any of them, I wanna know, or if any of this was relatable. And for all of my subscribers, thank you so much for your comments, for subscribing. It's such a highlight of my day to, respond to your messages and hear from you and hear how you're using this information. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I'd love to have you as part of my, YouTube family. So thanks so much for watching. Happy eating, everybody. Bye.